Jesus was a master question asker. He always asked questions that got to the core of what a person was thinking, what they were believing, to the point where it actually opened the door for their transformation. And as group leaders, we can do the same thing. That's the power of a good question, and that's what we're talking about today. Let's dive in. Hey guys, I'm Steve.
And I'm Lyle.
And this is Level Up, the monthly dose of leadership training that will help you take your small group
to the next level.
The power of a good question. Why is it even important to ask a good question? There's high value in asking good questions when we're sitting in our small group time with the people who are around us. And we as group leaders have the power to do that to the point where it can actually transform somebody's life. Yeah. The question is why? Why should we ask good questions?
That's a great question to ask, but
Thanks.
questions. I think number one, it ensures that the person is fully heard and fully understood. That's a really good starting place to ask a good question.
That's really good. We need to have the information, all the full picture, and we want them to feel known and understood.
That's right. Before we respond to them, we need to frame the whole thing and get all the details that are important, at least. Yeah.
I think that's really good. And I think another value of asking a good question is because it helps that person who you're asking the question to, it helps that person move from a shallow understanding of what's going on to a deep understanding. Yeah. I think actually a little bit of this time when my wife and we were going house hunting, and we went kind of into the country to this, we knew it was a house that was foreclosed on, but we wanted to check it out. We thought, okay, maybe we could do something with this. We drove up, it looked a bit raggedy on the outside, but we said, let's go look on the inside. The real estate agent brought us to the top floor to start. It was actually a 3-floor home, basement, middle floor, and top floor. And the top floor looked okay, some warped floors, that kind of thing, but nothing too crazy. Mm-hmm. Then he brought us down to the middle floor, and the middle floor, we could start to see some signs of maybe this isn't going to work out. Some things under the sink, maybe a little bit of water damage here or there. Mm-hmm. And then he brought us to the basement. As we approached that basement door, it looked like something out of a horror movie. It was supposed to be white, but really it was yellow, the door. And
looked like a hatch?
Yeah, basically. I mean, the handle was kind of shaky. He opened it up and we weren't sure what we were going to see. As we got down to the basement, it was full of cobwebs. There was this old rusty boiler that used to heat the house.
That's like my childhood nightmare right there.
Yeah.
This scenario.
Exactly. This boiler was basically the size of this room. I thought it could eat someone. Mm-hmm. And then there's this water damage all over the floor, pools of water. There's mold and mildew all over the walls. Like it was in a terrible state, almost as if nobody had gone down there for years. Wow. And I think that's what many people's lives are like. They haven't gone down to the depths, to the core, to the foundation of why they believe what they believe, why they do what they do. And asking good questions can help take them from shallow to that deeper place.
Yeah, so important. Yeah. Very, very good. Great analogy. Yeah. And I think a third reason was you want to move people. You're a leader in a Christian group, disciples of Jesus. You want to move them to greater levels of relational, emotional, and spiritual maturity.
That's good. You said you want to move them. I mean, that's a really, really good point, because as group leaders, we need to think of ourselves as guides. Guides who are leading people from that top floor all the way down into the basement in a loving, caring, careful way, if they're actually willing to go, right?
Yeah. And of course, you have to ask that. Maybe it's a good first question is, are you okay if we go a little bit deeper and I can ask you a few questions? That's a great starting place to get the permission from them.
Yeah, that's a great point. So, I mean, we're sitting in our group time, and of course, we want to open the Bible every single time we meet, right?
Absolutely.
And there's great questions that we can ask during that Bible study time. In fact, it's so important that we ask the right questions, because if we ask the wrong questions, we can misinterpret the Bible. Mm-hmm. So that Bible study time is really key. Yeah. We've actually got a video that we made, how to lead a Bible study, that will help you to know what questions to ask during that time to make sure that the text is being interpreted properly, and that way we can actually apply it to our lives. Mm-hmm. But that's not really where we're going here today. Today we're talking more about the sharing time, right?
Yeah, the sharing time where we sit around and generally we just go around the circle. Hey guys, let's share what's happening in our lives this week. And one of the things we observe is over the last 7 days, what's been happening is often a good thing. Is it brings them down. We met 7 days ago, but here we are, and we're starting our discussion time, our probing into what's going on in each other's lives. We want to know it, and we want to enter into it. We want to help them process that, whatever the situation they might have faced that week.
That's really good. You kind of just gave us an opening question, I think, right? And I don't know about you, but I've sat in some groups and I've seen some opening questions that kind of leave it wide open for whatever anybody wants to share.
Too general, right?
Too general, yeah, I think. Kind of like that "how are you doing" question, right?
Yeah.
It's so general that anybody can go anywhere and there's no real assurance that we're going to be able to go deep with them. So
That's right.
How should we start off that time together? What's the best way to start that sharing time?
Yeah. Well, I think we probably should preface it by saying we're going to ask some questions. So we're going to have an opportunity for you to share what's going on in your life. But can we invite you to go deeper? We're not going to just hear your story. We're going to ask you some questions. We're going to make sure we understand what you're going through, what you're facing, good or bad. And we want to enter into that, make sure that you're fully understood, fully heard, as we said earlier. But we want to make sure that it's not just information about your life. That's a good starting place. Maybe that's your first good question is gets an informational kind of question, right?
Yeah, that's good. And remembering that we are guides, giving them a little bit of a path, right? Maybe what's the biggest challenge that happened in your week?
Yeah.
Or maybe following up on something deep that they shared in a previous week, to let that be the starting place, because maybe you want to go deeper with them into that area, right?
Yeah, I think that's really important. Never forget what was shared in a previous week or two.
Yeah.
That someone is in. It's not, one and done. They're still in the middle of it, and you want to see how they're processing that, how they're coming along. It makes them feel valued because you really care about what's going on and whether they're continuing on with that, so
Exactly.
Always ask that first. But on the other hand, like I said, a lot of guys will respond, not much this week, things are okay, pretty general. And we don't want it to leave it there, because we know there's a lot of things that must have happened over the course of 7 days, maybe even new things that we want to hear about.
That's really good. So, that kind of brings us back to our top floor of the house analogy, right?
Exactly.
We can think of that top floor as kind of like the informational floor. It's the place where we gather the facts about what's going on in somebody's life. It's the place where we gain a real clear understanding of the circumstances. We almost want to guide them so that they invite us into a situation that happened in their week that week and kind of paint the picture for us, right?
That's right. Yeah. So you can ask questions that will help you fully understand more of the details. You don't want too many. You don't need too many, but you need to kind of be able to frame it. So ask some good questions about what actually happened and who the people were involved and that kind of thing. So that's the first level, but you don't want to stay there.
That's
you don't
right.
want to stay in the top floor, so.
Yeah, because we really want to dig deep to the real source of what's going on, right?
Yeah.
So, I think, we don't want to stay in the top floor. So what's that second floor type area that we delve into next?
Well, I think it's the emotional level of a man's life. It's how he's feeling about those situations, how he's processing it on the emotional level. As he goes through it, that can be really revealing and difficult for men to share. They have a hard time talking about their emotions often, or even finding the right words.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Back to us thinking of ourselves as guides as we do this. How can we take the facts that they've shared? Because the facts are often going to help us understand what might be underneath, right? So they're going to point us in the right direction. How can we take those facts and maybe help direct the person with some ideas of how they might be feeling, how they might be experiencing it, giving them options to choose from, because a lot of people don't have the language for that.
Yeah,
right?
Men don't have the same vocabulary as women when it comes to emotional, how to describe something or define an emotional state that they're in.
Yeah.
So I think we can give them words. I don't know,
Yeah,
what
like-
kind of words can you think of?
I'm thinking anxiety and fear.
Good words. Yeah.
I feel misunderstood, maybe. Maybe they feel misunderstood.
All right.
I feel like a failure, inadequate.
Huge.
What else? Anything?
Lonely.
Lonely.
Yeah.
That's great.
Doubting, self-doubting, lack of confidence.
Yeah, insecure, right?
Yeah. Lots of emotionally laden words. Help them, because then they could say, oh, yeah. I'm not sure I would have known how to find that right word, but you helped me with that. Yeah, I'm really feeling a lot of self-doubt this week.
Yeah, and kind of using those clues, right? Clues that they shared during the facts, going down and saying, okay, maybe this is what they might be feeling.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And sometimes you can lead as a leader and say, wow, if I went through that, I'd be feeling this. I'd be feeling a lot of anxiety over that situation. How did you feel?
Yeah.
That might give them a little open door to say, oh, well, if you felt that way, yeah, I did feel that way. So that's maybe a good starting place.
That's good. So we're charting this path from the facts down to the emotions, but the emotions aren't the basement level.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, we're giving them tools at that main level in the kitchen area to say, oh yeah, this needs improvement, or I see this sign of difficulty here, but we really need to help them open the door to the basement, right?
Let's explore some more.
Yeah. What is at the foundation? So that basement level, where's the basement?
Well, I think as believers, followers of Jesus, it's a spiritual level.
Yeah.
We want to get down to what's going on in spiritual realities. What is God up to? How are we responding to it? Are we responding in a biblically mature way? Are we processing it? Do we have the eyes to see what's going on from a Christian worldview perspective?
I love that comment. Do we have the eyes to see? Because I think when we're going through circumstances in our lives, when somebody in our group is going through a circumstance in their life, it's quite common for them to just see the circumstance.
Exactly.
Or for them to just see the feeling that they might be feeling and to not actually identify it as a spiritual reality that needs digging into, right?
Absolutely.
And so how can we be an assist for them, be a guide for them in helping them put on that spiritual lens to see, okay, my fear actually might be an evidence of a lack of trust in God.
Yeah.
Or my insecurity might be an evidence of a lack of trust and that God has got everything in his control. Or my loneliness might be an evidence of me not recognizing that God is with us and that he says, come to me, and all of these things, right?
Yeah, I think of that. To know that you weren't alone in that situation.
Wow.
Yeah, sure, you're sharing with the guys, maybe for the first time, or the women in your group, whatever. But to remember and to remind them, either with a question or a statement, isn't it great to know that Jesus promised that he would never leave us or forsake us? That means it doesn't matter what situation you went through, as difficult as it might be, he was there, walking you through it. And then when you see it from that perspective, from a spiritual eyes perspective, it starts to change that, and you start to frame it and say, maybe there's a purpose for that. Maybe I should look at this in a different way.
That's really interesting, that there would be a purpose behind the difficulty that we're going through, but we can't actually see that because of the emotional impact it's having on us, the pain or whatever. Maybe we're just distracted, or maybe we haven't spent the time thinking about it. If we find somebody in that situation, which most people are in many, many times of the week, right?
That's right, yeah.
So if we find somebody in that situation, if we've dug down to the basement, we see which cobwebs are there, what that big rusty boiler looks like in their life, how do we then bring in the solution, if you will? Because we don't want to just leave them there stuck in this dirty basement. They're going to get sick from all the mold, right?
That's right.
So how do we bring in the solution to encourage them, to point them in the right direction?
Well, we do have the resource of the scriptures, and we can always bring that in. It's not like, oh, we did our Bible study and that's the end of our need for the Bible. Yeah. This is where we bring it in, and we bring in a verse of scripture or a biblical truth. I think of one that comes to mind here. It's in James, and he says, consider this. It says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance. perseverance must finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. So maybe to help that person reframe that situation to say, I thought it was just a terrible situation I was in, and it's awful. Guys, please pray for me that God will remove this. Maybe God brought it. Maybe He has a purpose for it, or He is allowing it and say, I'm going to take this temptation or this difficult situation, and I'm going to use it in a way to grow you. So if you will persevere in that, and remember that I'm right with you in this situation, and I'm going to give you the resources through my Spirit and through the Scriptures to carry you through this, and you're going to grow through this. So in that sense, maybe you're not excited about the situation. It might be very challenging, but you can rejoice in the fact that God's in it and He has a purpose. And this is a character improvement opportunity for me.
That's right. Yeah. That's so good. I love it. This opportunity can lead me, can grow me toward maturity if I harness it, if I accept that reality. I think even that point, even accepting that reality, is a sign of maturity in and of itself.
It really is, yeah. And I guess this process, if you do it every week with your group, is teaching them, training them, as it were, to move from their, here's the experience, to the emotional level, to the kitchen, the bad kitchen, the challenge, to what's going on underneath, what's going on in my heart, what's going on in the spiritual level that I need to understand and address in this situation. So doing it regularly will teach them to do that process without waiting necessarily for it to happen in the group time. Of course, what we want to do is help them to do that week after week.
That's so good. And the last point we want to make here is vital. It's vitally important. And that is that when it comes to connecting all of these truths, all of this information to their heart, the Holy Spirit is the one who does that.
That's right. Yeah.
He's the one who does that work in them. And so prayer must be a central part of all of this. Actually asking God to say, God, would you apply this solution to this person's heart in the area where they need it most? Mm-hmm. And then watching as He does that. It might take years, it might take weeks, it might happen that day all at once. But God is the one who does that work.
Yeah. I love that, because this is that we call the prayer and share time, right? Someone shares something and we pray right away about that person, that situation, before we move on to the next one. We talked about the resource of the Scriptures. We go there. There are truths and principles, kingdom principles that we can live by, but need to apply. And sometimes we forget, you know what? It's one thing to cognitively know this is true, but I need to apply it, and you can help them. Then you move from that to the prayer time, like you're saying. What a difference that'll make to the prayer time for your small group. We're talking to getting down to something real and honest, getting down to the core issues, the heart issues, and then inviting God into those to train us and grow us, maybe relieve us of that situation, or maybe just say, I'm going to persevere in this and watch how God is going to shape me through it.
That's so great. Well, let's review our house. The top floor is the information. We're gaining facts. We're helping to have a greater understanding of what that person is going through, and we're asking those informational questions to do that. The second floor?
Second floor is the emotional level. Men need that help to understand what's going on and to be able to process that. So give them some key emotion words and help them understand that there's some feelings going on below the surface.
And then we, with God's power, try and do what Jesus did best, flinging open that door to the basement to actually address those core issues. It's the spiritual level, right? Whereas everything flows out of that, out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks, right? Everything flows out of that basement. So we want to really help them get there, and then not just leave them there, but actually prayerfully provide the solution, who is Christ.
That's right. And He was the great question asker.
That's right.
And two of the questions I can think of that He asked that were just profound, that apply to our situation here, when He asked His disciples, hey, what's out there on the street? What are people saying about me? And they said, some say you're Elijah or Jeremiah or John the Baptist. And He says, yeah, but who do you say that I am? that question, who do you say I am? Yeah, drop the mic.
Yeah.
That's what we bring into our situation. Is Christ in this? Who is Christ in your life in this situation? And of course, Peter responds, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. That changes everything. So we have to remember as believers that that Jesus is the Son of God. He's there. He's a resource. He lives within us and will enable us through this situation. Yeah.
Thank you, group leaders, so much. You have the power of the Holy Spirit living in you, and you have the opportunity and the power to ask good questions. Thanks for being about that every week.
Yeah.
Thanks for going to your group, for preparing, and for being intentional about that. You truly can be that guide. More than that, you can actually create an environment that trains the people in your group to actually guide one another, to ask good questions. So we just want to say thank you so much. We love you. We're praying for you, and we are with you. Thanks.
Thanks.